Welcome to another episode of Soap Goes to the Oscars. This is episode 56, and the movie I watched was Captain Blood from 1935. This was another Amazon rental and cost $4.23. So my average now is $4.11 for the movies I've watched. Last time it was $4.10, so it only went up a penny. Not bad. The last episode I described David Copperfield as kind of a stuffy British story and a stuffy film, and this one started out sort of stuffy, but ended pretty decently. This stars Errol Flynn. It's the first movie I've ever seen Errol Flynn in, and he was pretty good. Also starred Olivia de Havilland, who was also in A Midsummer Night's Dream, which was her debut in 1935. She had several movies in 1935. That was her debut. This was also one of the movies. And it also had Basil Rathbone, who later went on to play Sherlock Holmes in some movies. But all three of them also were in the Robin Hood movie, at least the first one that they did together. I'm not sure about. I think Errol Flynn might have done more than one. But so anyway, Wikipedia here. Captain Blood is a 1935 American black and white swashbuckling pirate film from the First National Pictures and Warner Brothers Pictures, produced by Harry Joe Brown and Gordon Hollingshead, with Hal B. Wallace as executive producer. Directed by Michael Curtiz and starring Errol Flynn, Olivia de Havilland, Basil Rathbone, and Ross Alexander. With a screenplay by Casey Robinson, the film is based on the 1922 novel Captain Blood by Raphael Sabatini, and concerns an imprisoned doctor and his fellow prisoners who escape their cruel island captivity to become West Indies pirates. An earlier 1924 Vitagraph silent film version of Captain Blood starred J. Warren Kerrigan as Peter Blood. Warner Brothers risked pairing two relatively unknown performers in the lead roles. Flynn's performance made him a major Hollywood star and established him as the natural successor to Douglas Fairbanks and a symbol of an unvanquished man during the Great Depression. Captain Blood also established de Havilland in just her fourth screen appearance as a major star, and was the first of 8 films co-starring Flynn and de Havilland. In 1962, Flynn's son starred in The Son of Captain Blood. Cinematography by Ernest Haller and Hal Moore, edited by George Amy, music by Eric Wolfgang Korngold. I think he just did something for maybe Midsummer Night's Dream, not sure. Release date December 28th, 1935, 119 minutes. Warner Brothers was inspired to remake the film, which it had first produced as a silent picture in 1923, after the popularity of Treasure Island, 1934, and The Count of Monte Cristo, 1934, revived the Hollywood swashbuckler genre. Some of the film's sea battle footage was taken from the silent film The Seahawk, 1924. The lead role was originally offered to Robert Donat, who had starred in the successful 1934 film The Count of Monte Cristo. The asthmatic Donat turned down the role, concerned that the action sequences would be too strenuous for him. A series of screen tests with various actors led to Flynn, an unknown Australian actor. In January 1935, Warner Brothers signed Flynn and brought him to Hollywood after seeing him in the British B-picture Murder at Monte Carlo. For the female lead role, Jean Muir was originally chosen to play opposite Donat, but after Muir declined the role, the studio focused on the 19-year-old de Havilland, who had starred in the 3 previous films that same year, including A Midsummer Night's Dream for director Max Reinhardt. The film was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. Despite not being nominated, Michael Curtiz received the second highest number of votes for Best Director as a writing candidate. Eric Wolfgang Korngold and Casey Robinson, also unnominated, received substantially more write-in votes than did most of the official nominees. The film was also nominated in the categories music, scoring, sound recording, and writing screenplay. So the story, it's 1685, and there are rebels trying to usurp King James II, and Peter Blood gets called to the house of someone who's been injured in war and is a rebel. And while he's there treating the man, the king's soldiers come and arrest basically everybody in the house. And so he gets taken and becomes a slave, or goes to prison basically. And then when his trial comes up, he tries to fight it. and he basically gets sold off as a slave. Instead of being hung, he goes off into slavery when he's with other men, several of the other men who I think they were all basically given reprieve, the people that he was with when he got captured, and they all get sold to this guy, and he has his daughter, or his niece. His niece is Olivia de Havilland, and she basically buys Captain Blood because he's a hottie. It's Errol Flynn, man. What are you gonna do? And he helps the governor, so he kind of gets in good with some people, but he's resentful of her because of who she is related to, which is Bishop, the guy that is buying all the slaves. So he devises an escape plan. They're gonna steal a ship and escape, and eventually they do. I think they get caught at one point, but eventually they do steal a ship and basically become pirates. And he creates these articles that if a man's drunk, or if I can't remember whatever all of them were, if he molests a woman that is captive, that they've captured, and there was one other thing, he goes against the crew or whatever, they would, they have certain punishments for them. And every crew member will, if they seize a ship with gold, they'll split the gold. Everyone gets a share. And if they lose a limb or get injured, they get extra money for those injuries. They develop these tenets and they become, famous buccaneers. And they're out at sea for several months and don't know that things are happening. The James was ousted and William is now taken over, William III, and they're at war with the French. In the meantime, at one point, he did go to Tortuga and he joined forces with a French buccaneer, Captain Levasseur. They kind of have a falling out. Levasseur agrees to the articles that they came up with, but then they quickly start going against them. They take women captive, which they aren't supposed to do, and they capture a royal emissary, Lord Willoughby, who's traveling with Arabella, the woman that bought Blood, and they want to hold him for ransom. Blood doesn't want to do it, so they have a falling out. So in the end, they come, and I'm spoiling some things here, but they agree to help fight the French who are attacking the port, the British port. And so they go in, and then, happy endings all around. And that's where the sort of swashbuckling and stuff comes in when they're fighting the French and when he's fighting Levasseur. But up until then, it took a long time. It was almost 2 hours. It took a long time for them to become the pirates. And it was okay. It wasn't bad. Everybody was good in it, but it was a little slow at the beginning. And then once they did become the pirates, it got a little more, a little more actiony, a little more interesting, a little more fun. So it was a fun movie all around. I liked it. But the reason I sort of explained that, whereas I've been trying not to just run through the whole story of all these movies, is that it was very obvious while I was watching this that a lot of the stuff in at least the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie with Johnny Depp was taken directly from this. And I'm sure a lot of other, pirate movies after this as well. But there's a lot of very specific stuff like that. So I didn't describe it in full before, but the punishment for the men, if they go against the articles that they came up with, was that they would be marooned on an island with, I think, a drink and a gun with one load in it, which they do that in Pirates. It might not be maybe it was the first one, but they do that in the Pirates movies. And then obviously they go to Tortuga, which was a real place and features in a lot of other movies, and featured in, I looked it up and it showed that it featured in one movie before this in 1931. But that was where they sort of teamed up with Levasseur, and there was the scene in there was kind of very similar to what they did in Pirates. So you could just see the influence of this on that, which is cool. That's fine that I think that's neat that they kind of went back. And To me, I like the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And I think the reason that one works more so than the rest is because if you watch the behind the scenes on the DVD, they actually like did research about pirates and ships and like basically the lives of pirates. And they really put a lot of detail into it that, a lot of it you're never going to see, but they really did put a lot of detail into that stuff. And then even basing it on, these older movies kind of grounds it a little bit as well. Then after the first movie, they kind of just went with, well, this stuff was fun. Let's ramp it up. Oh, and the other thing that reminded me of Pirates was that, Will in the Pirates movies is a slave at the beginning. He's working for a blacksmith, and he kind of gets in with the governor's daughter. That was a very similar storyline to this movie. So it may just be me reading into it, but it seems to me that they definitely pulled some stuff from this movie, which is cool. So overall, pretty good in the rankings. Les Miserables is still my favorite of this one so far. Top Hat was pretty good. Ruggles of Red Gap was pretty good. And I'd probably, those might be top three. I might put this one fourth, David Copperfield fifth, and then the rest fall somewhere below that. Informer being last because I hated it. But yeah, not bad. And I've got 4 movies left, plus a snubbed movie, which I'm not going to reveal yet. So we're getting close. As I'm recording this on December 9th, 2024. And my goal is to finish up this 1935 ceremony year before the end of 2024. So got 4 movies plus a snub movie. Think I can do it, but we're also going to be vacationing for the last couple weeks of the month. So hopefully I can get them in for that. I think I can do it. By the time that you hear this, it will be months and months after I've already taken that vacation. So it doesn't even matter. That's all I got. See you next time.